some things some things have happened in the economy which could definitely facilitate growth. One of it has been that relative stability of the exchange rate. When you look at profitability of corporate institutions, you will see that certain very important changes have happened. So if you take corporate profitability of listed companies in half year 2024 and you compare it with half year 2025, there is a dramatic change. Listed corporate organizations have flipped from the massive loss position to profit. What that is saying is that there is a recovery from the event that caused that massive losses of early 2024, 2023 and early 2024. So if we now recognize that, then we must begin to probe what were the things that led to it. Of course, one of it, a key major one, is the fact that we stabilized the foreign exchange rate. Now, so it will lead us to begin to ask the questions, policy questions, to say, look, so what can we do to ensure that the recoveries we're beginning to see in corporate profit will not hang there, but they will percolate all the way down and get to everybody, including those at the bottom rung of the ladder? And how do we fast track the growth beyond 4% to maybe double or that amount, and probably find a pattern that will eventually lead us, into the right level of growth that could help us achieve, ambitious goals like $1 trillion economy, for example?
Okay, I also wanted to talk about, us getting above our statutory borrowing limit from 40 to 52%. Is that typically something to be worried about? And why do you think that the Honorable Speaker backtracked on his statement, or maybe came to give clarity, saying that we actually misrepresented what he was trying to say?
Okay, it probably backtracked for what he said before might be a political misstatement. It doesn't portray the administration that he serves, in which he's serving as he's supposed to be a lawmaker anyway, and it's in that same ruling party. It doesn't portray the party in good light. So if he has been misquoted, or if he thinks he has been misquoted, he will definitely go out there and make that political correction. However, it is important to also note that the lawmakers they've approved this thing. They approved the borrowing plan. So I'm not sure that he can even go out there and say that, okay, they did not agree, or that the government is overborrowing. If he was overborrowing, the question would have been, when you guys were approving the borrowing plan, why didn't you bring that up? Why didn't you raise the necessary question around that time, rather than we approving the borrowing plan and then going to say, oh, you are borrowing too much? Another issue will be, will Nigeria avoid borrowing at this time? I don't think so, because the revenue profile is too tiny. You cannot have a country of over 200 million people having a budget that is about 25% of a South Africa with 60 million people. It shows that there's a huge gap in revenue. Unfortunately, what is required to bridge that gap is not something you can snap your fingers and bring into place. It would take a bit of time. It would take building and rebuilding block by block to be able to rev up our revenue profile. Hopefully, maybe the new tax laws might help, but then there are also issues around taxation that if we don't deal with those issues properly, we might not be able to get as much positives even from the new tax law. So Mr. Olojede, we can combine all these things and rev up the revenue.
Mr. Olojede, just to follow up on your last statement that Nigeria cannot avoid borrowing. The current administration is currently going through some very ambitious infrastructural projects. The airport remodeling in Lagos, for example, and the Lagos-Calabar Superhighway. These projects require huge funds. And like you said, we're not just making enough money. You talked about the tax regime that will come into place in 2026, but it might not just be enough. So what's creative or what's alternative financing means available to the government beyond borrowing and, you know, extreme taxation?
Okay. I'm not sure we can use the word extreme taxation for what we have, either now or even under the new tax laws. If when you speak with your friends who live in Europe, for example, and they talk about taxation, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but the service delivery in Europe and in other climes is also different, and it's a conversation for another day.
So yes. So it's a chicken and egg thing. Which one comes first? So there is some things about taxation which I believe if we walk that journey properly, we will be able to get a whole lot from taxation. Taxation, there's an unwritten law or a unwritten agreement about taxation that, look, I will give you my taxes and you will use it to benefit me. You will use it to create the right environment for me to continue to thrive. That contract is there, even if it is not written. So when you create that environment that the taxpayers can feel that, oh, this is taxpayers' money at work, the more of such environment you create, the more you are going to have more compliance with tax issues. The less of it that the people can see, the more people will run away from taxation and create all sorts of schemes to dodge taxation. So putting to use the available fund first is very important for that tax agreement that is unwritten. After you have gotten to that, then you go on to things like the collection efficiency. So you have situations in which a lot of people don't even pay tax. I still remember very vividly a presidential candidate in this country who was 8 years a governor before he wanted to contest for presidency. And on the INEC form that he filled, you could see that the taxation he had paid over the previous 3 years was not even up to what a teller in a bank has paid. So you are asking yourself, why is it that the top earners are not carrying the fair burden of the taxation in this country? Only people who are in structured paid employment, for example, are carrying the burden of personal income taxes in this country. And until we have a situation where everybody carries his own fair burden, those tax laws will be frustrated. They will not achieve as much as they are supposed to achieve. It's after you have dealt with issues of accountability for the current level of taxation and you have dealt with the issue of collection efficiency, that is when raising taxes and the rest of them begins to deliver issues for you. So we can get a whole lot from taxation, but we have to work it the right way to ensure that that will happen.
Okay, how
we
do
also
we
now need to look at, yeah. Okay.
No, land on your thoughts. Land on your thoughts. You said we also now need to look at what?
I lost track of that.
Okay, so sorry about that. So how then do we talk about facilitating or accelerating GDP growth without then piling on debts for ourselves?
Okay, like I said in one of my earlier comments, we will have to borrow, but the National Assembly will have to do a better job than what, in my opinion, I think they have been doing. When these borrowing plans are presented, it would be nice to see the rigors or to know that there were rigors in the engagement regarding those borrowing plans. Side comments about, oh, you know, we not do it. When those plans, take them item for item, decide on what we must borrow for, what we must not borrow for, who we should borrow from, who we should not borrow from. What are the terms and conditions that you consider good for the country and which ones should we run away from? And then approve only those that fit into the plans of the, the vision of the country, and will not hurt the country in the long term or in the medium to long term. That is very critical. Then we now have to see how we continue to expand this issue of productivity. We're still not a particularly productive economy. We still do not have enough foreign exchange generating activity. For example, a chunk of our foreign exchange earnings still comes from oil and that sector. Though I'm glad about some of the things that are beginning to happen in that segment, as I see Dangote refinery exporting refined products even to the US. That is a fantastic. But we just need more of those to happen. Productivity that help us to generate. It will not only create job. When you create job, you employ people. Those people will pay personal income tax. You make money from that. Those organizations that are doing well will pay you company income tax. You make money from that. So and then you export things and you make foreign exchange. So we must rev up the productive base of the economy, and government must look at policies that will help to deliver on that.